Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. If you're new here, grab a drink. You're going to need it. Because tonight, I'm not here to tell you how I met my wife. I'm here to tell you how I ended her spotlight moment with a folded piece of paper and 3 words. Let me set the scene. White marble floors, hanging lights that looked like upside-down crystal explosions, tables set with name cards and imported flowers. And at the center of it all, my wife, Marielle, glowing like a trophy freshly polished for display. I wasn't even supposed to be there. She told me it was a professional event, and that I wouldn't enjoy it anyway, which was code for, "Don't come, Tanner. You'll make things awkward." I came anyway, not to be a hero, not to expose anyone, but because I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what was happening. I had to watch it crash. In real time, I needed proof not for others but for myself. That I wasn't insane. That my gut wasn't lying to me. And oh, was it right? She was wearing that maroon dress, the one she swore she bought for a client dinner. Backless, tight, her hair curled just how I used to like it. She wasn't looking for me in the room, but she was looking. Her laugh was louder than usual. That specific, bright, too perfect kind of laugh. The one she uses when she's not actually enjoying herself, just trying to make sure the cameras of human attention stay on her. And standing beside her? Cole Maddox. He wasn't her coworker. He wasn't even in the same industry. He was the guy she used to say was annoying but harmless. Now his hand rested on her lower back like it had always belonged there. They toasted. She giggled. He whispered something in her ear. She blushed. Felt like my lungs were closing. But I didn't move. I just stood there, out of her peripheral vision, watching my wife pretend I didn't exist. And that's when I pulled out the note. Nothing fancy. Just a folded half-sheet of paper from the valet stand. Written in blue ink. I walked right up while they were surrounded by her circle of gallery friends and artsy influencers. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. Just blinked. Surprised. I handed her the note without a word. She took it with a polite smile, probably thinking it was some lame compliment or cheesy poem. But when she opened it, her mouth tightened. Her pupils shrank. Because it read, "I'm not pretending anymore." That was it. 3 words. 1 truth. I turned around and left before anyone could say a word. And while the room filled with murmurs and her frozen smile cracked, I sat outside in my car, gripping the steering wheel like it could keep me from dissolving. You might think that was the end. Oh no, that note didn't just ruin her night. It detonated everything. Because what she did next wasn't silence. It was war. I didn't go home after leaving that party. I didn't go to a hotel either. I drove. I didn't even care where. Past gas stations, glowing diners, the same freeway exits we used to argue over when she wanted sushi and I wanted anything not sushi. I kept going until my tank dropped to 1 bar and my eyes started to blur. Eventually, I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour laundromat and just sat there, still wearing my dress shoes, still hearing her laugh like it was echoing off the inside of my skull. And I kept asking myself one thing over and over. When exactly did she stop being my wife? Because it didn't feel like she cheated in a single moment. It felt like I'd been losing her in layers. Quiet, hidden layers I didn't notice until I was completely alone. I didn't check my phone for 2 hours. I just sat in the front seat with my tie still around my neck like a noose and stared at nothing. But when I finally picked up the phone, 32 missed calls, 17 texts from her. Not one said, "I'm sorry." The first one just said, "Tanner, what the hell was that? You embarrassed me in front of everyone." The second one, "You've misunderstood everything. Please don't do this." By the time I got to the 10th one, she was angry. Not sad. Not apologetic. Just angry. "You're being dramatic. You should have talked to me first instead of acting like a victim." Acting like a victim? I had to laugh. A dry, bitter one. The kind of laugh that tastes like blood in your mouth. Because for over a year, I've been living in a silent prison. Watching her drift further away from me while blaming myself for not being enough. I tried everything. Couples activities. Late night talks she always postponed. I even offered to go to therapy. She said she was too tired. Always too tired. Now, suddenly, she wants to talk? No. That note was my goodbye. Quiet, sharp, clean. But Marielle wasn't finished. She never is. Around 4 a.m., I checked my email. There it was, an official notice that she'd reported me missing to the local precinct. As if I was some unstable threat to myself. As if she was the one concerned for my well-being. No one in that room knew what she had done behind closed doors. The subtle lies. The weekends that didn't add up. The bracelet I found in her coat pocket that wasn't mine and wasn't hers. The gas station receipt for a city 2 hours away. On the same weekend she said she was at her sister's. I collected it all. Quietly. I never confronted her because I was afraid of the answer. Because some part of me still hoped I was wrong. That she would come back to me. That maybe, just maybe, she was still mine. But when I saw her with Cole, when I saw how she looked at him like she used to look at me, it clicked. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her placeholder. Someone to smile for holiday photos and explain her lies when people asked why she was always busy. And that note? That was the first honest thing I'd done in months. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted to stop bleeding. But apparently, she had other plans. Because the next morning, someone knocked on the door of the tiny roadside motel room I'd crashed in for the night. It wasn't room service. It was Cole. And he didn't come to talk. He came with something in his hand that would change everything. And not in the way I expected. It took me a full 10 seconds to process who was standing in front of me. Cole. Wearing a smug little grin, in designer jeans and a white button-up shirt that looked like it had been steamed just for this visit. His hair was still perfectly styled, even at 8:40 in the morning, while I stood there in wrinkled clothes, unshaven, with my shirt half tucked and yesterday's motel air clinging to me. For a second, I actually thought I was dreaming, or maybe hallucinating from the energy drinks and lack of sleep. But then he held up the thing in his hand, my wallet. My actual leather wallet with the stitched initials on the inside flap. I think you dropped this at the party, he said like we were old friends. I blinked. How do you know I'm here? He smiled wider. Marielle told me where to find you. I don't even know what part hit harder, him holding my wallet or the fact that my wife sent him to return it. Anyway, he continued, casually walking past me into the room without permission. She was a little shaken up last night. Thought you might have done something stupid. You know, the way you left things. I closed the door slowly behind him, heart hammering in my chest. This couldn't be real. He sat on the edge of the motel bed like he owned it. Like this was his life now. My life. And I was the ghost haunting it. She's worried about you, man, he said. She didn't expect you to make a scene. You blindsided her. I didn't make a scene, I muttered. I left a note. He chuckled. Yeah, well, same thing in her world. I wanted to scream, to grab him by that pristine collar and shove him out into the parking lot. But I couldn't move. My body was frozen like I'd become a side character in my own breakdown. He dropped the wallet onto the table like he was doing me a favor. Look, I'm not here to fight, he said. But she wanted me to give you this. That's when he handed me the envelope. Thick, heavy, white with gold trim. It was an invitation to a gallery opening. Marielle's gallery opening. Our dream gallery. She used to talk about it when we lay on the couch eating takeout, back when we still touched each other without hesitation. She said she wanted a place where people could walk in and see emotion on canvas. She wanted it to be warm, not sterile. Real. Like her art. I helped her build the pitch deck for her investors. I edited her proposal. I stayed up nights researching grant options and helped her practice her presentation voice. Now there it was. Her dream. Fully funded. Fully real. Fully hers. And Cole was listed as a co-host. My chest collapsed in on itself like a dying star. I couldn't look at him. I stared at the envelope in my lap like it was radiating heat. She wants you to come, he said. She said she wants closure. Closure, I whispered. Like I'm a book she's finished reading? Cole stood. You don't have to show up. But if you don't, Someone else will take your seat. Might as well see what she built with everything you gave her. He paused at the door. Oh, and don't do anything stupid. The guests will be press and collectors. You know how appearances matter to her. And with that, he left. I didn't follow him. I didn't throw the invitation away either. I just sat there, holding it, wondering if I'd officially been replaced not just in her heart, but in the story of her life. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was erasure. She didn't just walk away from me. She rewrote the ending. But if she thought I'd sit in the shadows while she smiled in the spotlight, she didn't know me as well as she thought she did. Because I did show up to that gallery. But not for closure. No. I went there to give her something she wasn't expecting. Something final. I almost didn't go. I stood in front of the mirror in that crummy motel bathroom for 15 minutes, staring at myself like I was auditioning for a role I didn't even want. There was this part of me that said, don't give her the satisfaction. Don't walk into her world like a forgotten ex begging for attention. But the other part, the heavier part, needed to see her one more time. Not because I missed her, but because I needed to confirm with my own eyes that the woman standing in that gallery wasn't the one I married. I wore the only decent thing I had left in my trunk. A button-up shirt I'd stuffed in there during a road trip 2 years ago. Wrinkled beyond repair, sleeves uneven, but it smelled clean enough. I didn't shave. I didn't fix my hair. I wanted to walk in as the version of myself she had thrown away. Raw. Unfiltered. Unwelcome. The gallery was downtown, the kind of place with soft music, fake laughter, and overpriced wine. When I stepped inside, it was like walking into a different planet. Light flooded the open space, bouncing off tall white walls where her paintings now hung like royalty. There were waiters gliding between clusters of guests, offering sparkling water in glasses thinner than my self-worth. And there she was, Marielle, standing beneath a spotlight next to a canvas I recognized immediately, the one she painted during our cabin trip last winter. The one she swore she wasn't happy with, that she would never show anyone. And now it was mounted like it belonged in the Louvre, with her name on a gold plaque beneath it. Her laugh floated across the room like a perfume cloud, and for a second, I felt dizzy from how rehearsed it sounded. She hadn't seen me yet. I watched her work the crowd, her hand occasionally resting on Cole's arm like it belonged there. She wasn't just comfortable around him. She was thriving. And the worst part? No one in that room knew a single thing about what it took to get her here. About the hours I spent scrubbing the kitchen floor while she painted. About how I pawned my vintage guitar collection to help her pay for art supplies. About how I gave up a promotion because the job required weekend travel, and she needed stability while she found herself. No one knew. To them, I was just some guy standing in the corner, drinking flat soda out of a plastic cup, staring too long at a woman who had clearly moved on. But I hadn't come empty-handed. I walked up to the front display, the one labeled From Darkness to Light, and slipped a small envelope onto the pedestal beneath one of her paintings. It blended in with the other gallery notes and donations. No one noticed. Inside was a single Polaroid photo, a snapshot of Cole's car parked outside the Marigold Inn. Dated 3 weeks ago. Time-stamped 2:17 a.m. Her reflection in the glass. And on the back, I'd written only 2 words. Before closure. That was it. No yelling. No public confrontation. No dramatic outburst that would make me look like the broken one. Just a tiny crack in her perfect evening. An invisible match dropped into a room full of curated silence. I didn't stay. I walked out just as her gaze finally found me from across the room. Her smile faltered, barely. But I saw it. That flicker. That moment when the foundation shifted beneath her expensive heels. By the time she opened the envelope, I was halfway down the block. I didn't need to see her reaction. I'd already imagined it 100 different ways, each one quieter than the last. Because people like Marielle don't explode. They unravel. And sure enough, that night I got a text. 1 sentence. No emojis. No period. We need to talk. But I wasn't done yet, because I had one more truth to deliver. And this time it wasn't for her. It was for someone she never thought I'd reach. Someone who had no idea the kind of woman he was protecting. Someone who deserved to know what he'd helped cover up. I knew it was time to stop reacting and start revealing. She wanted to play gallery queen and bury me behind curated smiles and whispered apologies? Fine. But there was one person she forgot about. One person she thought would never question her. Never dig into the things she so carefully kept buried. Her father. Ever since we got married, her dad, Randall Greaves, treated me like I was some dusty rag Marielle had settled for when she couldn't find silk, a retired military colonel turned high society consultant. He looked at me like I was barely house-trained. But what he didn't know, what he never wanted to know, was that I was the one who held his daughter together every time she fell apart. When she flunked out of her first design job, when her mother got sick, when she had that panic attack in the grocery store parking lot, I was there. I carried her. He saw her as the crown jewel, a woman too perfect for failure, a woman whose mistakes were always someone else's fault. Until now, I still had his number, saved under Do Not Call, because Marielle once told me never to text him directly. She said he was old-fashioned, said he preferred she handle family communication. But I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I didn't call him. I went to him. He lived in a gated community about 20 minutes outside the city, the kind of place with names like Fox Hollow and mailboxes that cost more than my tires. I had nothing but my car keys and a manila envelope with printouts, emails, time-stamped photos, one hotel receipt with her signature scribbled at the bottom, and 2 guests checked in. I didn't do it to ruin her. I did it because he needed to stop thinking I was the fool. Because if anyone had influence over her, it was him. And maybe, just maybe, he needed to see what kind of house of glass he'd helped her build. He answered the door in a navy robe, holding a cup of black coffee like he'd just stepped out of a retirement ad. His face tensed when he saw me. "Tanner," he said slowly, eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here?" I held up the envelope. "I'm not here to argue. I just need you to see something." He didn't invite me in. Just stood there, skeptical, judging me like he always had. I handed him the envelope. He didn't open it at first. Just held it, looking at me like I'd handed him a bomb. Finally, with a sigh, he stepped back and opened the door wider. I followed him into a living room that looked like a museum. Cold, polished, lifeless. He sat, opened it, read in silence. I watched his face change. Not all at once. Piece by piece. His jaw clenched. His grip tightened. He flipped through the pages slower as he got deeper. When he looked up at me, there was no anger, no defense. Only one question. How long? I swallowed hard. Over a year. I didn't have proof until a few weeks ago. She's with a guy named Cole Maddox. You probably met him at the gala. He said nothing, just leaned back, eyes locked on some invisible point in the corner of the room. It was the first time I'd ever seen him speechless. Then he stood, walked to his liquor cabinet, and poured 2 glasses of scotch. No words, no ice. He handed me one. "Sit." And for the first time since marrying his daughter, I did. Not as a charity case. Not as the lesser man. But as the one holding the truth. We didn't speak for almost 10 minutes. Just sat there while the clock ticked and the sunlight crept across his Persian rug. Finally, he said something I didn't expect. I always knew she was ambitious, but I didn't think she'd step on the one person who never asked her to be perfect. That hit me harder than anything else. I wanted to cry, not because I needed sympathy, but because I had spent the last year blaming myself for her drifting away. I thought I was too boring, too small, too steady. But maybe I was just real, and she couldn't handle that anymore. He didn't offer to fix it. He didn't offer to talk to her. All he said was, "I'm sorry." And coming from him, that was an earthquake. When I got back to the motel, Marielle had called 5 more times. One of the voicemails was her crying. The next one was her yelling. The last one, cold. "If this is how you want to handle it, fine. But don't drag my father into it. You crossed a line, Tanner. And now you're going to regret it." She hung up, but I wasn't afraid, because I wasn't done crossing lines. The next one was going to be public. It's funny how silence can feel louder than screaming. After her last voicemail, cold, venom-laced, surgical. I turned off my phone and let the quiet wrap around me like a wet sheet. I could have responded. I could have matched her tone, argued, defended myself, yelled into the void. But something inside me had shifted after talking to her father. Something irreversible. I no longer needed her to admit she was wrong. I just needed the world to see who she really was. For the past year, she curated this image online, in galleries, at events. The perfect wife. The independent artist. The resilient survivor of a marriage that just didn't work out. She never said my name, of course. But I could feel her version of me floating between the lines of every post. Every speech. That ends now. You see, Marielle forgot one thing when she left me in the dark. I was the one who built the stage she's standing on. I proofread her press kits. I shot and edited the video montage for her first solo exhibit. I designed her damn website. I have every file, every draft, every behind-the-scenes photo she never meant for the public to see, including a few she sent to Cole while still wearing her wedding ring, time-stamped and geotagged. I didn't want revenge. Not at first. But when someone decides to erase you from your own story, you start realizing that staying silent is just another way of letting them write your ending for you. So I made a choice. I opened her website and scheduled a new post. One of those update announcements her followers love. Always starting with something inspirational like, growth means letting go, or every canvas begins as chaos. But this one would be different. I titled it, Before You Celebrate Me, Know Who Paid the Price. Then I attached a short letter. A letter she wrote to me during our 3rd year of marriage, before she met Cole, where she called me her anchor, her constant, her reason for waking up. I added a side-by-side image, one of her smiling at our cabin retreat with paint on her nose, and one of her kissing Cole in a hotel hallway, taken from a security cam still I'd legally obtained through a FOIA request. I blurred his face, but not hers. The caption underneath, from this to this. I didn't change. She did. I didn't rant. I didn't accuse. I simply laid out a timeline, facts, images, receipts. I didn't even mention Cole's name. I didn't have to. Anyone who followed her would figure it out. I scheduled it for 8 p.m. prime time, the same hour her gallery posted its official thank you to all our supporters. Recap video. The moment that post went live, my inbox exploded. Not just from her. From friends. From people I hadn't heard from in months. From anonymous usernames sending me support. From one of her former assistants who said, I always knew she treated you like background noise. You deserved better. And then came the message from Marielle. You just destroyed everything. I hope it was worth it. No, I'm sorry. No, I made a mistake. Just blame. Always blame. But it didn't feel like destruction to me. Felt like a funeral. A quiet one. No flowers. No eulogies. Just the burial of a lie. And I stood there finally not as the victim, but as the man who survived her. But the story wasn't finished. Because later that night, around 11:42 p.m., I got an email. No subject line. No name attached. Just a sentence. You should know what really happened that night at the Marigold Inn. Attached. A video file. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity is a cruel thing. I watched it. And what I saw changed everything. Not just what I knew about her, but what I thought I knew about myself. I watched the video 4 times before I could breathe normally again. It was shaky footage. Low resolution. Probably taken with an old phone or security camera. But it was enough. It began with a hallway outside room 314 at the Marigold Inn. The timestamp read 2:11 a.m. The same night I'd always believed she was simply staying at her sister's house, helping with some family emergency. The same night that I'd been sitting at home rewatching our wedding video on my laptop like a lovesick idiot while she told me her phone had died. I should have known then, but I didn't. Not until this. The video didn't show what I expected. There was no steamy embrace in the hallway. No kiss. No dramatic entrance. Instead, it showed Marielle pacing, her arms crossed, her posture tight like a wire about to snap. She checked her phone. Then again. Then again. She looked anxious, angry even. And then Cole appeared. But it wasn't romantic. Not even close. He grabbed her wrist. Not violently, but not gently either. She pulled back, said something. The video didn't have audio, but I could read the tension in her body like subtitles. She wasn't the predator that night. She looked cornered, defensive, scared. They argued intensely. Then she took something out of her purse and shoved it into his chest. He took it, looked at it, threw it to the floor, then stormed off down the hallway, leaving her standing there alone. After a few seconds, she turned, picked up whatever it was, and entered room 314. The video ended there. No context, no explanation, just 67 seconds of something I never imagined. I stared at my laptop, my reflection flickering in the dark screen. Everything inside me twisted. Was she not sleeping with him back then? Was this some other version of betrayal, one where I'd misunderstood everything? No, that couldn't be right. But something was clearly missing. Something she had never told me. And then the follow-up email arrived. No subject line. Same sender. Just 2 words. Ask her. Attached. A file with screenshots of text conversations between Marielle and Cole. Spanning months. Some were tame. Others, not so much. But then I hit one that made my blood run cold. Marielle. He thinks you're just my coworker. I hate this. I hate lying to him. Cole. You said you'd handle it. Are you backing out again? Marielle. I'm scared. Okay? You don't understand what he gave up for me. What I owe him. That was dated 8 months ago. Before the party. Before the note. Before the unraveling. I sat back, stunned. This wasn't about some long-running affair where she'd just thrown me away without a second thought. This was messier. More tangled. And more dangerous. Because now I had no idea who to trust, her, or the version of her I had built out of assumptions and heartbreak. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, replaying every fight we ever had, every cold moment, every forced smile, trying to see if there was some clue I missed, some sign she was drowning but couldn't ask for help. The next morning, I drove back into the city, not to confront her, not to scream, but to sit across from her. One last time. She didn't know I was coming. Her new gallery was open for public viewings during the day, so I walked in like anyone else. She was sitting at the front counter, looking exhausted, hollow, almost, as if the light that used to beam out of her had been turned off. When she looked up and saw me, her eyes didn't widen. She didn't flinch. She just exhaled. Tanner, she said quietly. I pulled out my phone, set it on the table between us. I got a video, I said, and some texts, from someone. I don't know who. She stared at it for a long time before speaking. Was it him? She asked. Cole? I don't know. Maybe. Another pause. Her lip trembled for half a second before she caught it. I didn't cheat on you, at first, she said, voice trembling. But I did lie, and I let it spiral, because I didn't know how to come back from it. I stayed silent, let her talk. He showed up in my life when I was already cracked, Tanner. I didn't want anything from him, but he was persistent. He made me feel seen when I was lost. And then it got messy. Too messy. I hated how much her voice still got to me. I tried to end it, she said, more than once. But he made it hard. He kept showing up. He said things, threatened things. He knew stuff about our finances. About the grant. About things I told him when I thought I trusted him. My stomach turned. Are you saying he blackmailed you? She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. I leaned forward. Why didn't you just tell me? Because by the time I wanted to, she whispered, I was already the villain in your eyes. And maybe I believed I deserved to be. It wasn't the answer I wanted. But it was the most honest thing she'd said in over a year. I left without saying goodbye, because I didn't need closure anymore. I needed the truth. And now, I had most of it. But there was still one more message waiting for me. One final revelation I didn't see coming. One that would leave me standing in my old apartment with a suitcase I hadn't touched in weeks, staring at the last page of her journal. I never planned to read her journal. I found it by accident, tucked behind the shoe rack in our old apartment when I went back to pack the last of my things. The movers had already cleared out most of it, but I wanted to grab a couple personal boxes she'd left behind, things she'd said I could toss or keep. When I moved one of them, it slipped out and landed at my feet. A plain black notebook, no name on the front, just worn edges and a single sticker on the back. Don't forget who you were. I sat on the floor and opened it. The first page was from 2 years ago, back when we were still us. It was filled with sketches, paintings she never finished, gallery ideas, fragments of letters. Then the tone started to shift. By the middle of the notebook, she was writing about me, about us, and it wasn't what I expected. She wrote about how she felt like she was losing herself in the pressure to succeed, how people kept telling her she could do better than a man who worked with machines and liked quiet dinners at home, how she hated herself for sometimes believing them. Then there was a passage that stopped me cold. Tanner doesn't shine like the men they show in movies. He's steady, still, a full moon, not a meteor. But God help me, I've always chased chaos, and I'm terrified I'll destroy the only thing that's ever truly loved me. I closed the book after that, not because I was angry, but because I realized I had finally found the answer I'd been looking for. Not in her words, but in mine. I hadn't failed. I hadn't been boring or weak or small. I had been consistent in a world that rewarded flashes and noise. I was never broken, I was just quiet. And somewhere along the way, she mistook that for emptiness. I didn't need her to fix anything. I didn't need her back. I just needed to finally forgive myself. So that's what I did. It's been a few months since that last day. I moved cities, took a new job with better hours, adopted another dog. Baxter needed a buddy. Her name's Maple, and she eats like a horse. I even started painting a little myself. Nothing fancy, but it feels good to create even if I'm terrible at it. And as for Marielle, she reached out once, sent a message that just said, "I hope you're okay. I still think of you when it rains." I didn't reply. Some stories don't need sequels. They just need closure. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. If you made it this far, I'd love to know, what moment in the story hit you the hardest? Or maybe, have you ever left a note that changed everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read everyone. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more real-life stories just like this one. See you next time.